Hi, friends. Today we're going to read our first chapter book about friendship. Remember, the stories in here are pretty short, but each one is going to be their own chapter. This book is called George and Martha, and it's about two great friends. While I'm reading, think about what do George and Martha do that makes them good friends for each other. George and Martha, written and illustrated by James Marshall. George and Martha. 5 stories about two great friends. Story number 1. This is our first chapter. Split pea soup. Martha was very fond of making split pea soup. Sometimes she made it all day long, pots and pots of split pea soup. If there was one thing that George was not fond of, it was split pea soup. As a matter of fact, George hated split pea soup more than anything else in the world, but it was so hard to tell Martha. One day, after George had eaten 10 bowls of Martha's soup, he said to himself, I just can't stand another bowl, not even another spoonful. So, while Martha was out in the kitchen, George carefully poured the rest of his soup into his loafers under the table. Loafers are shoes. Now she will think I have eaten it. But Martha was watching from the kitchen. How do you expect to walk home with your loafers full of split pea soup? She asked George. Oh dear, said George, you saw me. And why didn't you tell me that you hate my split pea soup? I didn't want to hurt your feelings, said George. That's silly, said Martha. Friends should always tell each other the truth. As a matter of fact, I don't like split pea soup very much myself. I only like to make it. From now on, you'll never have to eat that awful soup again. Whew, what a relief, George sighed. Would you like some chocolate chip cookies instead? Asked Martha. Oh, that will be lovely, said George. Then you shall have them, said his friend. What did George learn about friendship in this story? Martha said, friends always tell each other the truth. Do you think that's true? Story number 2, the flying machine. I am going to be the first of my species to fly, said George. Then why aren't you flying? Asked Martha. It seems to me that you are still on the ground. You're right, said George. I don't seem to be going anywhere at all. Maybe the basket is too heavy, said Martha. Yes, said George. I think you are right. Maybe if I climb out, the basket will be lighter. What's going to happen? Uh-oh. Oh dear, cried George. Now what have I done? There goes my flying machine. That's all right, said Martha. I would rather have you down here with me. What did George and Martha learn about friendship in that story? Story number 3, the tub. This one's silly. George was fond of peeking in windows. One day, George peeked in on Martha. He never did that again. We are friends, said Martha, but there's such a thing as privacy. It's okay to have privacy with your friends. Story number 4, the mirror. How I love to look at myself in the mirror, said Martha. Every chance she got, Martha looked at herself in the mirror. Sometimes Martha even woke up during the night to look at herself. This is fun, she giggled. But George was getting tired of watching Martha look at herself in the mirror. One day, George pasted a silly picture he had drawn of Martha onto the mirror. What a scare it gave Martha. Oh dear, she cried. What has happened to me? That's what happens when you look at yourself too much in the mirror, said George. Then I won't do it ever again, said Martha. And she didn't. What do you think Martha learned in this one? George didn't think she should be looking in the mirror all the time, so he tricked her. What do you think about that trick? The last story, the tooth. One day when George was skating to Martha's house, he tripped and fell, and he broke off his right front tooth, his favorite tooth, too. When he got to Martha's house, George cried his eyes out. Oh, dear me, he cried. I look so funny without my front tooth. There, said Martha. The next day, George went to the dentist. The dentist replaced George's missing tooth with a lovely gold one. When Martha saw George's lovely new golden tooth, she was very happy. "George," she exclaimed, "you look so handsome and distinguished with your new tooth." And George was happy too. "That's what friends are for," he said. "They always look on the bright side, and they always know how to cheer you up. But they also tell you the truth," said Martha with a smile. What do you think the two friends learned about friendship in that story? George said, "Friends always look on the bright side, and they always know how to cheer you up." Do you agree with me, Bob? So, friends, think about what you learned about friendship in this story. And on Seesaw, make a video and tell me what you think. What do you need to do to be a good friend? Maybe something you learned from George and Martha, or maybe something you already know. See you soon.